Today's shout out is for Zuldinga. Arabella Hare Apparent versus Braids, Balmor, and Gen. Decided to keep this hand. The game has just crashed on me on turn 0, so yeah, looks as though all our opponents have stuck it out, thankfully. But we've got Hare Apparents to play in the early game. Basilisk Collar for Balmor, Death Touch and Lifelink. Draw into another Hare Apparent, nothing to do on turn 1, so let's go Windswept Heath in for a tap land. And we see another Hare Apparent. Do we keep it? I think I'd rather get into something more flashy, to be honest. I'm actually going to throw that one in the graveyard, weirdly. Swiftfoot Boots and an Urborg, meaning we can tap down our fetches if we want to. Braids throws out a Blood Artist early on. A Skull Clamp for us. Could be a very good draw at some point. We've got 3 lands, so going to be a little bit slow to get going. I maybe should be playing Hare Apparents here, but I'm going to test the waters and see if we can land the Arabella. Priority has been held up by the Is It player, so I might just want to counter us straight away. Arabella never really gets to see that much play usually, so we get to cantrip at least. We'll have to discard to hand size though. Wasn't expecting to land our commander there. Well, we draw the card on the next upkeep, don't we, so we don't have to discard down to hand size at all. So we get 2, our opponent gets 1. Ancient Tomb I wouldn't say no to here, so we can get 2 Hare Apparents down next turn. Maybe a rock into Hare Apparent would be good as well. Okay, another land means that we can better hold on to Witch Enchanter. Over the top I've got high hopes for, but that's a late game card. Mask of Grizzlebrand setting up for his commander to enter play and get the Swiftfoot Boots equipped, likely next turn. Haughty Jin for the Is It player, so that is a 1/4 flyer. It's going to get more and more power. The more instants and sorceries that are cast, it will discount the instants and sorceries as well. So this is a really good creature. Reassembling Skeletons, sack fodder for Braids. And yeah, just getting into more lands. No ramp unfortunately, so might just have to play the Skull Clamp and have it sat there doing nothing, because I don't want to be discarding that many cards if I don't have to. Play Hare Apparent, and I'll just crack the Bloodstained Mire now. Could tap it down for mana like I said, but we'll make it a plateau to fix our colours. Yeah, really don't like Skull Clamp just sat there doing nothing. If we can get at least a couple of cards off it, then it's already paid for itself, but we'll challenge our opponents to do something about that. We at least get removal out of our opponent's hand. So as we thought, Gen comes into play equipped with the Swiftfoot Boots on turn 4. A main phase, Fact or Fiction, for 3 mana from Balmor, so I'm assuming he's eager for a land here, pointing that at the Braids player. So I might be trying to garner favour from the second most powerful deck here, assuming Balmor's really strong. Baral. No land there. Thunderclap Drake, Immolating Gaia, an Arcane Signet and 1,000 Year Storm. Luckily decides to discard the Baral. Immolating Gaia goes into the bin as well. 3/4 then goes in at Braids, so not that eager to garner favour apparently. Braids coming into play now as well, and Reassembling Skeleton hits back against the Balmor player because he's likely going to sacrifice this. So does sacrifice the Reassembling Skeleton at the end step, triggers Blood Artist. We are going to say no of course, and points the Blood Artist at Balmor. A Dusk to Dawn, so we can destroy all creatures with power 3 or greater, and then return all our Hare Apparents back to hand from the graveyard if we want to at some point. We're a ways away from wiping the board, I think. Getting a land. I think a couple of Hare Apparents is fine here, and then we can decide if we want to maybe go Arabella and Skull Clamp next turn. See if we can dodge a board wipe during the next cycle. Triggering Hare Apparent for the first time, we get 1 token into play, and we'll get 2 from this one. And then let's take a look at attacking in. I'm not going to make any blocks, I don't think, because I want to maximise Skull Clamp. Unfortunately, our opponents can see it coming, which I don't like, but we might as well take a free shock in at Balmor. Mask of Grizzlebrand being equipped onto the Mardu commander now, so haste and hexproof, flying, still a 2/3, has lifelink as well. Yet to see an enchantment over here. Missed a land there for turn 5 as well, so swings in at us with the 2/3. Thunderclap Drake, another flyer, makes instants and sorceries cost 1 less. And for 3 and sack, when you cast an instant or sorcery this turn, you can copy it, plays a bounce land for the turn, and then throws out the Arcane Signet, which we saw off the back of the Fact or Fiction previously, so could still have some kind of counter magic held up, either a 1-mana counter spell or a discounted one, thanks to them costing 2 generic less. Maybe has Unwinding something or other. There's a negate for 3 mana that untaps lands. There's Frantic Search as well to untap lands, all kinds our opponent could be looking to do. Another Aristocrat with Zulaport Cutthroat probably reanimates his reassembling skeleton here. Instead decides to give up on the Zulaport straight away, strangely, so I'm not sure what he's holding up the 2 mana for. Again, we'll say no to Braids, because I just want to be able to maximise Skull Clamp targets if we can. Might be that Braids is holding up interaction for Arabella, so maybe we're just better off trying to get as many triggers with Heir Apparent as we can. Alright, and Impact Tremors might be worth getting into play. Could hold on to a Gunjo to try and get rid of something like this, but it would be good to get 1 Skull Clamp at least. So let's play the land. Suppose we could have Skull Clamp first to see if we can draw into another land. Let's clamp on a rabbit token now. Priority being held up by the Mardu player, and by the Izzet player, and by the Braids player, so all eyes on us apparently. Decides to allow it through, so we trigger the Blood Artist, which is pointed at us as punishment for drawing 2 cards here. And we were drawing into lands apparently, so could make some tokens with this if we want. I think we'll set up the Impact Tremors. We're managing to dodge this 30 odd Heir Apparents we've got in the list somehow. And yeah, there's a negate for 1 mana. Still 5 cards in hand for the Balmor player. Always fun to play against Counter Magic Tribal, but you have to play into it. A Heir Apparent for us, I think. So triggering for the 4th time here, we'll get 3 Heir Apparent rabbit tokens. And next turn might have to be a case of just trying to get more mana going here, because we're going very slowly. Starheim Courser still waiting on the enchantments from the Mardu player over here. Might see a 2 mana aura cast after this, but instead decides to tap out. Might as well swing in here. I think he's got... No, he doesn't have Vigilance, so he could hold back and does decide to. Already seen the 1000-Year Storm as well, and our opponent still with those discounts available. The black player throws down a Defiler of Flesh, so can discount his permanents and give +1/+1 and Menace, is it? Alright, awesome. And Braids decides to scoop. Right, so let's see if we can do anything here. Wow, turn 6 ramp for us. I'll probably just play it, to be honest. So get a land out. Arcane Signet. Priority held up by the Izzet player, who's got his eyes firmly locked on us. I doubt we're going to do anything through Balmor, to be honest. We'll clamp a rabbit token. There's another Heir Apparent for us at least. I think I want to try Witch Enchanter onto this and force them to counter it. Alright, it does land, so get to blow up the enchantment apparently, which he just spent 6 mana casting. Might only have negate style counter spells. Couldn't counter a creature. Alright, Chaos Warp onto his own 1000-Year Storm, so that would have been pointed at the Arabella, I dare say. And just reveals a Deep Analysis on top of his library, so we'll get some cheap card draw next turn. Got him to waste his Chaos Warp though, so it's worth it just for that. Alright, awesome, and that player scoops as well. Phenomenal. Deep Analysis, paid just 1 mana for that. Decided to flash back a Deep Analysis as well, so has 8 cards in hand, cast a Meeting of Minds, so draw 2 cards to that. Have to imagine he's got even more counter magic in hand now. Balmor into play for the first time by turn 7. Basilisk Collar being equipped as well, so that is a 6/4 Haughty Djinn. Don't want to hold up counter magic for whatever reason, so maybe it's time for our over the top. Going to gain some life here and go back up to 30. And we draw into another Heir Apparent, so we need 7 mana for this. We've got Ancient Tomb is 4, 6, 8 and 9. So we'll have 2 mana held up after the over the top. So maybe a couple of Skull Clamps will be fine. Yeah, I might as well go through to attacks first. Hold back the rabbit tokens because I want to maximise the number of permanents we've got in play. Does not block any damage, so takes 4, 8 and 10. Going down to 20. Play ourselves an Ancient Tomb. Tap it for mana straight away. Might be that he's got some kind of free counter spell is what he's holding up. But I mean, we can't just play around counter magic for the rest of the game, we just have to force him to use it. So at draw 2, there's a Lightning Greaves will come in handy with our commander hopefully. Draw 2 again, and we've got more lands, more Heir Apparent. Let's try it over the top and hope it lands. Hope the Fun Police doesn't interfere with us. They are holding up priority. And allow it. Each opponent reveals cards from the top of their library equal to the number of non-land permanents they control. Put all permanents revealed this way onto the battlefield. So hoping we don't crash the client here. We got our opponent into a Gutter Snipe, a couple of lands I think. And we got a Molten Gatekeeper. So it's already triggering 3 times. We've got more mana with the Talisman of Conviction, Brotherhood Regalia in order to get our commander through. 3 Heir Apparents are going to go on the stack and make a bunch of tokens. Can't do anything at instant speed, so we'll just put the burn on first. And Heir Apparent resolves first of all. I mean, he's in play 2, 4, 6 and 7 I think. So that means that the Molten Gatekeeper is going to see 6 tokens enter, deal a total of 6 damage to our opponent, hoping that we don't see any spot removal onto the Gatekeeper. This is going to be our means of winning. Got him down to 14. See another 6 tokens enter, because the Heir Apparents all entered at once. So we'll get him down to 8 with that one. This Heir Apparent going to see another 6 tokens enter, meaning it is 6 plus the original 3 is 9. And even with that life gain from the Basilisk Collar, we managed to get our opponent. So as ever in this deck, Arabella doesn't last very long, and we don't seem to run into the mana that we need to accelerate ahead very quickly, unfortunately. So doubt I'll ever run this again, but if I do decide to, it'll have to be an overhaul of the mana, I think. Just try and get things going a lot more quickly, but turn 7 win against what I thought was going to be a one-sided control game there. Turned out a lot better than I thought it would. Just goes to show again why you shouldn't give up, but at least the 2 early scoopers, assuming they weren't going to be able to interfere with us there, at least they were going to go down to that as well, most likely. Hopefully you all enjoyed this revisit to Arabella Hare Apparent. I know it was a popular one when I first played it a few weeks or months ago, whatever it was. Massive thank you to the patrons as well. I'm Tribalkai. Thank you for watching.